I want to welcome everyone. We'll begin with meditation. So find a comfortable position. Tuning into the body, tuning into the breathing, or whatever your preferred way is to really allow yourself to relax and let go. So much of our exploration into applying the Dhamma to disease and death has to do with our relationship to our body. And of course, the other khandas as well. And as we relax into meditation, the first place we can find some solid ground is in paying attention to the body. We carry this body around all the time, you might say. And so much can be going on beneath the surface that we don't even know is there, don't even know what's happening inside. And it's just useful to acknowledge that. We can tune into the body and recognize how it's feeling, where there might be some tightness, where there might be some discomfort. And we can also tune into the pleasant feelings that we might experience in the body, physical, pleasant feeling, especially as we relax, or the presentation of mental feeling through the body. This is such an important tool, you might say, for awakening. Experiencing our emotions through the body, giving us a perspective on the mind as well, how we feel, what we may need, both physically and emotionally. What might need some attention, maybe some part of the body that's been under stress, or it might bring some loving attention. Or maybe some emotions that have been strong, sankharas, feeling, perceptions. So as we reflect in this way, then we're taking the position of witnessing what's happening in this body and mind. And the witness is unbiased, just observing. Not judging, not criticizing, just present and aware. It's simple, not difficult, not distant, not something to achieve or attain, just being here in this present moment with this form. That we were born into without any control over it at all. We didn't choose this body. We've been conditioned to believe that it is who we are. But when we look carefully, we can understand on an intellectual level and eventually very much on a feeling, knowing level that it's not us. This is not who you are. This body has its own timing, its own experience, its own development, its own deterioration, all on a schedule that we do not control. It's not to say that it's fixed. I don't think it's destined to deteriorate or die at a particular time. There are many causes and conditions affecting the development and the decline of the body. Still, most of it out of our control. It's like we can't control, when the carburetor on your car is going to go out. Or a tire is going to go flat. We can maintain the car as well as possible and maybe help it last longer. Same with the body. But we can't keep it going forever. We can't stop its constant changing. We can't make it change into what we want it to be. So it's perfect that the way to awakening is to simply observe in the light of the Dhamma. Anybody can do that. We can all do that. Just being willing to open up to seeing what's actually there in this present moment. And allowing the space between the observer and what we're observing. Letting go of identification, ownership. relaxing and releasing, letting go of grasping. And being present with whatever might arise out of just considering this, hearing these words, or putting our attention on our physical form in this way. Observing it. Maybe fear arises, maybe sadness, grief. And of course, it's not just the body. As I said, it's also perception, memory. When memories arise that are painful or pleasant, can we observe them? Seeing their fleeting nature, feeling arises and passes away. Our mental activity, our thoughts, our dreams, our imaginings, our hopes, our fears, all things concocted in the mind, dependent on other conditions, come and go. And sense consciousness arising with each sense experience and disappearing again. And the steady, stable component here is the awareness, the observing, that we tune into it and it's there. Available. The Dhamma is always present, here and now. There's an open invitation all the time in the present moment to observe from the position of knowing, from the position of Dhamma. The natural occurrence of arising and passing away. And as we practice in this way, then what we notice is with the passing away, there's peace, space. And we're so strongly conditioned to want activity, distraction, stimulation, that it can take some time, take some settling in to come to that point where the critic, where the restlessness settles down. Before we can notice that the silence is peaceful and happy. And when pleasant feeling arises in the body, maybe piti or sukha or pamoja, and there's a healing aspect to it through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the basis, the, the doorway, the gate. And instead of being caught up in trying to get some experience, we just open up, relax, wait, watch. Peace is in the watching. Happiness is in the watching. Even when what we're observing is not happy, is not peaceful. That's just the way it is. That's human life, unfolding, constantly changing. So we start to enjoy the beauty of this process, of this position of observer, witness. And it runs counter to some of the ideals we might have created or adopted, glorifying deep states of concentration, which are wonderful and beautiful, heroic efforts to practice to awaken, and to recognize that it doesn't have to be so extreme or so rare. It's here and now, letting go of the sense of self, seeing it, not letting go because we want to get rid of something, not that we have to become something, but just relaxing, allowing ourselves to observe, see it for what it is, whatever is coming up, whatever is there, whatever situation, conditions of the body and the mind, being present with, letting go of clinging to that, identifying with that, being with that, letting it just be as it is. Seeing the arising, the ceasing, knowing for ourselves the gratification, the danger, and the escape. This is the practice. Now bring the meditation to a close. Gradually allow your attention to come back to the space together. So lovely to see you all. And right now you might not be able to see me very well. The ongoing early morning light in here. But it'll change, won't it? So I'm going to direct your attention to the sutta for this week, which is with Khemaka, Samyutta Nikaya 2289. So we're still in the Samyutta, the khandas, the aggregates. And this is with Venerable Khemaka. Quite a beautiful sutta, I think. So at one time, several senior mendicants were staying near Kosambi in Gosita's monastery. Now, at that time, the Venerable Khemaka was staying in the Jujube tree monastery, and he was sick, suffering and gravely ill. In the late afternoon, those senior mendicants came out of retreat and addressed Venerable Dasika. Please, Reverend Dasika, go to the mendicant Khemaka and say to him, Reverend Khemaka, the seniors hope you're keeping well. They hope you're all right. They hope that your pain is fading, not growing, that its fading is evident and not its growing. So we've seen this kind of question. It's like we might ask anyone who's we've heard has been unwell, like, how are you? How is it going? Hope you're getting better. So Dasika says, yes, reverence, and he went to Khemaka and said to him exactly what the elders had asked him to. He said, Reverend Khemaka, the seniors hope you're keeping well. They hope you're all right. They hope that your pain is fading, not growing, that its fading is evident, not its growing. And Khemaka says, Reverend, I am not keeping well. I'm not getting by. My pain is terrible and growing, not fading. Its growing is evident, not its fading. I'm getting worse instead of better. And it's pretty miserable. Then Dasika went back to the senior mendicants and told them what had happened. And they said, please, Reverend Dasika, go to the mendicant Khemaka and say to him, Reverend Khemaka, the seniors say that these 5 grasping aggregates have been taught by the Buddha. That is, the grasping aggregates of form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness. Now, you probably already know that I personally have a little trouble resonating with the word, with the translation of choices for sankhara. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it quite captures it. But the problem, of course, is that there's nothing in English that really quite captures it. So, Bhikkhu Bodhi might translate it as mental formations or volitional formations. So sankharas as a aggregate the aggregates just means that these are things that are concocted. And these five are what the Buddha identified as making up in general what we think of as us. The body is form, our feeling, our perception, sanya, which is, how we perceive things, but also our memory, our mental activity that has that concept of choice behind it, or volition. It's all the things that we happen in the mind, our imagining of all different kinds of things, our ability for the mind to be able to bring up memories of all kinds of things that have happened to us. We can even bring up memories, sort of concocted kinds of ideas of things that didn't even happen to us. We can reflect on or bring into our mind all kinds of things that we've heard about, seen, both really experienced in our life, or even just things we've seen on TV or in the movies, or imagined along with our reading, or heard about from someone else. And all this stuff is available through the mind. We can think thoughts about faraway places that we've never visited. It's just endless. All of this goes into the sort of basket of sankharas, concocted mental activity. And then consciousness here, jnana is sense consciousness, the consciousness directly related to this body-mind complex that we cling to and grasp and identify with on a conventional level as ourself. So the question they want to ask him is, do you regard anything among these five grasping aggregates as self or as belonging to self? So the practice with this for any of us is to observe how this happens in us, in our own experience. Do we recognize that we're grasping, clinging these aspects of our perceived self? And the way we know that we're grasping is that we suffer. We don't like the way things are, or we like the way things are and they're changing, and whatever fears we have about the process that the body and the mind go through, processes, that's the flag that tells us, wow, we're attached, we're grasping, we want things to be different than they are, or we want them to stay the same, which is also different than it is. And so the practice of that is to really start to understand, who do I really think I am? And is that really true? So this question, as we'll see, is related to, how much does Khemaka really understand about the Dhamma? So Dasika says, yes, Reverends, and he relayed the message to Khemaka, who replied, these five grasping aggregates have been taught by the Buddha. So he repeats this, he understands this. There is the grasping aggregates of form, feeling, perception. I'm just going to say mental formations. Also not that immediately obvious. Maybe I'll just call it sankharas and consciousness. I do not regard anything among these five grasping aggregates as self or as belonging to self. So that's an enormous gain right there in wisdom. He already knows none of these things are me or mine. And then Dasika went to the senior mendicants and told them what had happened. And they said, please, Reverend Dasika, go to the mendicant Khemaka and say to him, Reverend Khemaka, the seniors say that these 5 grasping aggregates have been taught by the Buddha. There they are again. You can kind of get a sense as you read the suttas, like how much repetition is really helpful to the mind. Sometimes repeating the phrases again and again help to bring it more deeply into our awareness and our reflection. So here they are, the grasping aggregates of form, feeling, perception, sankharas, and consciousness. If, as it seems, Venerable Khemaka does not regard anything among these 5 grasping aggregates as self or as belonging to self, then he's a perfected one. The defilements ended. I don't know if when you read this, you went, I don't think so. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, Dasika says, yes, reverends, and he relays the message to Khemaka, who replied, I don't think so. Anyway, these 5 grasping aggregates have been taught by the Buddha, that is, the grasping aggregates of form, feeling, perception, sankharas, and consciousness. I do not regard anything among these 5 grasping aggregates as self or as belonging to self. Yet I am not a perfected one with defilements ended. For when it comes to the 5 grasping aggregates, I'm not rid of the conceit. I am. But I don't regard any of this as I am this. So getting that sense of knowing, I know I'm not the body, and the body is not me. I'm not this. I'm not the feeling. Feeling comes and goes. I get that I'm not these feelings, even though our language says I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm whatever, like very hopeful in that regard. But to know deeply that we're not our feelings. To know deeply that we're not our perceptions, that our perceptions have been conditioned by other conditioning and choices or mental activities, mental formations, volitional formations, and sense consciousness, knowing I'm not this. These are processes that are in play, in motion, affected by so many things. And I'm not that. However, I have this idea that I am. Which, by the way, is one of the 5 fetters that falls away between the levels of non-returning and our ownership. One of the last things to go. This concept or this idea or this conceit, I am. Then Dasika went to the senior mendicants and told them what had happened, and they said, go to the mendicant Khemaka and say to him, Reverend Khemaka, the seniors ask, when you say I am, what is it that you're talking about? Is it form or apart from form? Is it feeling or apart from feeling? So is it in feeling or not in feeling? Is it in perception or not in, and so on? Is it consciousness or apart, distinct from consciousness? When you say I am, what is it that you're talking about? So let's get down to the specifics. What is it? Okay. So Dasika comes back. He relays the message to Khemaka, who's like, okay, enough of this going back and forth. What's the point in running back and forth? No, he's sick. He's not getting better, but he said, bring me my staff. I'll go to see them myself. So he hobbles on over. Leaning on his staff, he goes to the senior mendicantes and exchanges greetings with them. And when the greetings and polite conversation are over, he sits down to one side. And they say to him, when you say I am, what are you talking about? Is it form or apart from form? Is it feeling or apart from, separated from feeling? Is it perception or apart from perception? Is it the sankharas, the mental formations, or is it apart from them? Is it consciousness or is it apart from consciousness? When you say I am, what are you talking about? And Khemaka says, I say I am with reference to form or being apart from form. I don't say I am with reference to feeling or sanya or sankharas or vijnana, or that it's apart from any of them. For when it comes to the five grasping aggregates, I'm not rid of conceit I am, but I don't regard any of this as I am this. It's like the scent of a blue water lily or a pink or white lotus. Would it be right to say that the scent belongs to the petals or the stalk or the pistil? And they say, no, Reverend. Then, Reverence, how should it be said? It would be right to say that the scent belongs to the flower. And I think what they mean here is the whole plant, like, because it's not just the petals, so it's not just the blossom, it's not just the stem or the stalk or some other component of the plant. It's the whole flower, the whole plant. And Khemaka says it's in the same way that I don't say I am with reference to any of these parts or apart from any of these parts. For when it comes to the five grasping aggregates, I'm not rid of the conceit I am, but I don't regard any of this as I am this. So although a noble disciple has given up the five lower fetters, okay, so the five lower fetters, so the first three come with stream entry. So this, if you've given up the five lower fetters, you're already a non-returner. So the first three fetters that fall away are broken is doubt in the Buddha, the Dhamma, or the Sangha. And any kind of breaking of the moral precepts. So having this complete dedication and depth of appreciation and understanding and ability to keep the precepts. That's not really the fetter, but it's one of the results. So it's like the doubt goes away in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and the clinging to or identification with these five aggregates. That's another one. And the adherence to rites and rituals, or I like this idea of the cultural conditioning. So letting go of our personal and cultural conditioning there, those three fetters. And then the reduction of greed and hatred and delusion in the second level of once returning. And in the third level, non-returning, is the end of greed and hatred. And then the other five that come after that. So when you let go of the first five, those first five lower fetters, the ones that come after that, the other five are arahantship. If you've let go of those five lower fetters, they still have a lingering residue of the conceit I am, the desire I am, the underlying tendency I am, which has not been eradicated. So part of the fetters that have not yet been broken through have like this idea of wanting to be reborn, maybe in a form realm or in a formless realm, but still this I am. I want to continue. I want to become still. There's still restlessness. There's still some ignorance, delusion. So he's saying that, so this sense of I am, of wanting to become, of being, is still there. And then he says, after some time, they meditate observing the rise and fall in these 5 grasping aggregates. Such is form. Such is the origin of form. Such is the ending of form. So this is the key. This is the practice for actually having this letting go become complete. And it's as simple as this. Meditating, reflecting upon, observing how this body comes into being and how it originates, where does it come from, and how does it end. And of course, most of us maybe don't have the memory of this, of being in the form and having it end in a past life experience. But we look at the ending of other lifetimes. We look at the ending of our parents' lifetime in the body, or our friends, or even the people we've heard about from across the miles. And we recognize that this too is the situation we are in ourselves. So we can, like, this is the way it is with the body. It's like this, such is this form constantly changing. We can observe the changing. We can observe our aging. We can observe our development. We know we don't look the same as we looked when we were 6 months old. We know this is a constantly changing process, but we need to remind ourselves, because there's something in the human mind, the human makeup, that wants us to think this is continuous, and it's me all the way through. Me from the time I was born to now, it's still me. So to really look at it, not as me, but as this, what's really unfolding here. Seeing the origin, seeing the ending. And maybe with feeling, it's even easier because it's so immediate. Like we can feel angry, and then we can notice, what it is, the causes of that anger or that sadness or that whatever it is. And then we can see it fade away. We can recognize its ending. We can look at perception, the sankharas of the mind, the way the mind changes depending on so many different things, how people receive us, or how people act towards us, or what we're listening to on the news, or what we're seeing on the phone, or what we're hearing, and what thoughts pop into our mind. And all of these things come from previous conditions. And we can notice how it changes our mind. Even our personality changes based on conditions. And if we try to stay the same, it takes a lot of energy and effort, and we still can't do it. And such is consciousness, its origin, and its disappearance. So what he's saying here is, you practice like this. We practice like this before stream entry and after stream entry, before once returning and after once returning, before non-returning, after non-returning. It's the same practice. Such is consciousness, such is the origin of consciousness, such is the disappearance of consciousness. And again, this is sense consciousness. So not to confuse it with the way the word vijnana is used in other places, or by some people who are laying out the whole expanse of the path for us and talking about the chitta or consciousness that doesn't disappear or die, that's coming at it, that's at a different level, at the level of Dhamma. And as they practice in this way, with all that is impermanent, the lingering residue of this idea of me, I am, is eradicated. Or maybe we could say is dissolved. And then he uses another simile. Suppose there was a cloth that was dirty and soiled. And if you've been reading the book, you'll see that it's like, oh, a dirty diaper. And the owner gives it to the person who does the laundry, and the launderer kneads it thoroughly with salt, lye, and cow dung, and rinses it in clear water. I mean, we might use Tide or something, it's like a little bit nicer sounding, but same effect, I guess. Although that cloth is clean and bright, it still has a lingering scent of the salt, the lye, or the cow dung that had not been eradicated. Or, I've experienced some of the laundry having kind of a sour, so we use unscented laundry detergent because of allergies. And then sometimes the scent from something before still lingers, and you might notice that. And the launderer returns it to its owners, and they store it in a fragrant casket. So they're putting it in a box of some kind, maybe with some kinds of herbs or something like that. We hang it out on the line, and it's forest fresh, mountain fresh, kind of, so, but we have all had this experience of some odor lingering in the fabric. And that lingering scent would be eradicated in this way. And he says, in the same way, it's like, I am is just such a scent. It's pervasive. I think comparing it, using the simile of a scent, a smell, this is a pretty good way to do it, because scent is so kind of infused in things. And so although a noble disciple has given up the 5 lower fetters, they still have that lingering residue of the conceit I am, the desire I am, and the underlying tendency I am, which has not been eradicated. And after some time, they meditate observing the rise and fall in the 5 grasping aggregates. Such is form. So such is the body, such is the origin of the body, such is the disappearance of the body. Such is feeling, such is perception, such is the mental formation, such is consciousness. Such is the origin of consciousness. Such is the disappearance of consciousness. And as they do so, that lingering residue falls away, is eradicated. That delusion is seen through. Not because we are trying to get rid of it, not because we are in our process of thinking, trying to break through it. We observe and we reflect, but the actual disappearance or disintegration of it comes from wisdom arising, insight. And when he said this, the senior mendicant said to the Venerable Khemaka, we didn't want to trouble you with our questions, but you are capable of explaining, teaching, asserting, establishing, clarifying, analyzing, and revealing the Buddha's instructions in detail, and that's just what you've done. I can feel the gratitude in it. And that's when Venerable Khemaka said, that's what the Venerable Khemaka said. Satisfied, the senior mendicants approved what Venerable Khemaka said. And while this discourse was being spoken, the minds of 60 senior mendicants the Venerable Khemaka were freed from defilements by not grasping. During this exchange, during this explanation by Khemaka, Khemaka himself realized Nibbana, and so did these many senior mendicants. Ta-da! I borrowed that from Ayya Santussika. So you might wonder, what does this all have to do with this disease? I mean, isn't this just the practice anyway? And it is. It is. I do think, though, when we're dealing with these challenges in the body and getting closer and closer to death, we have more urgency. We have more impetus for the depth of the practice. We want to use these opportunities, and we want to use this beautiful faculty of our thinking mind to recognize this, what it is that we're really doing with this idea of being this body and our feelings and so on. We want to use this collection of these aggregates as the opportunity to really see the true nature of this conditioned realm. All conditioned things are impermanent. All dhammas are not so. Conditioned and unconditioned. So we can hear it and hear it over and over, and it helps us to start to understand it directly. But it's through that direct understanding and experience that we really gain the insight. Even calling it gaining, it's so hard with language because it's so divisive. You gained or you didn't gain. You've attained or you didn't attain. But actually, the unconditioned doesn't have any of that. That's how we think, because that's what we're immersed in. This is why it's so important to recognize that shift from thinking about these things to observing them, witnessing them without the intrusion of the thinking mind passing judgment about it. Or maybe that's not the right way to put it, because I think instead of thinking of it as an intrusion of the mind, thinking of it as this is the natural process of the thinking mind, that's part of what's going on because of all the conditioning of the thinking mind from the time we're born, maybe much longer ago than that we are conditioned to pass judgment, that we are conditioned to criticize ourselves and to be idealistic about how we should be or what should be happening or where we failed or all of those things. And to just take that step back, and as I have said a lot of times, kind of elevate it up to see it with Dhamma. Because when we see it with the Dhamma, then all that self-recrimination and that judgment of others and even the conditions of the world falls away. And we see things as they are, see them unfolding, see them arising, see them disappearing. And we can see how things arise and cease right in the mind. So it's a really interesting position we're in. We have everything we need. We have the Dhamma, we have each other, to support each other. We have the time. I don't think any of us are struggling for the basic requisites of life. So we have enough security. We really have everything we need. What we're dealing with are these moods and whatever the chemical concoction is in our system that causes us to be restless or depressed or whatever it is, afraid. I mean, we certainly are, we have the view onto this world that can cause all kinds of feeling to arise, fears, and all of that. But if we use that position of witness, we don't have to be, we're not caught up in it, but we're not apathetic about it either. We're not just trying to block it out or get rid of it or cling to it or establish a sense of self by taking a position. It's all very interesting. Finding that way of being present where you know what's wholesome and unwholesome. But that witness is not in that judging mode. It's in that position of observing and opening up to the insight that arises in us that is stable and calm, peaceful, and happy. This can be very elusive for us because we constantly shift back into conventional reality and all of the vicissitudes of it until we remember again, I can step back, click up, observe this through the Dhamma, be present with, observing conditions, you might say, in the eye of the storm, with the stability, even though it's no swirl around us. So I'm going to end the comments there. And I'd like to hear any comments or questions you have. Yes, Lynn.
I still can't understand what is consciousness very clearly. For these 5 aggregates, I can feel about feeling, perceptions, and my thoughts, wholesome thoughts, unwholesome thoughts. Then memories, restless, maybe belongs to mental formations. But what is this consciousness? Is it our mind? Or thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. So the first thing I want to say is, even though we want to have a sense of these, what the Buddha was talking about, it's easy to get too, I'm not saying this is true of you. I know you're just asking, like, what is this really? And I'll get to that in a second. But I also want to say that it's easy for us to get too deep into trying to parse this out by the thinking mind and have definitions, and people get into long discussions about what really is sankharas and what really is sanya, what really is vijnana. And it's like even the Buddha said, some of these aggregates can't really be cleanly separated because they just are so interdependent. So one thing is, if it doesn't seem like you can put these things directly in a box that clearly a category they fit in, okay, and to not get too concerned about it. Now, having said that, when we talk about consciousness, you know that you're conscious. That's how you can have perception. That's how you can have mental formations. You're conscious, you're not unconscious. Right there, kind of at a baseline, we're all conscious. And when we're observing through the senses, through sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought, then consciousness is applied to what's coming in through the sense bases. And that's really what he's talking about here. And I think that's sufficient to see how that comes and goes, even though consciousness itself is continuing there. Like the part that is applied through the sense bases is what's meant in the aggregates.
Thank you. This is great. I was thinking, oh, should I really understand that? But now I don't think, I think I understood, but I don't need to be that, like you said, be specific. Anyway, I think I sort of got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I would say when we're practicing, when you're observing, just observe what's present there. Just, being open and available to what's present at the time. A lot of times that's going to be about feeling or thoughts, whatever. And it's not so important to name them. Even you don't even have to use language. See if the mind can settle in beyond language and just experience. Having the Dhamma understanding behind it, that what you're observing is the change. What you're observing is the arising and the disappearance. And when there's suffering, what we're observing, that suffering, we're coming to understand it, like you see in the Noble Truths. And then what happens, as they say in the suttas, at some point later, insight comes. And when that happens, we go beyond dependency upon anyone else because we know for ourselves. Thank you, Ling. Olive?
Thank you, Ayya. When you made reference to conceit and you said that really means I am, that really struck me because I was associating conceit with my image, the image I have of myself.
Well,
and so that really helped to look at it that way, because I can see the images that I've built up for myself, and I didn't associate it with, I am or the not self.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Anyway, the other part that you were talking about unfolding, and that it's not so much. It's not so much, and I'm not remembering what you said, but that unfolding is the way to watch or to witness the unfolding.
Yeah, it's not so much a process of trying to do something. It's more of a process of observing the change, the unfolding of this, whatever is happening.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Olive. Linda?
Thank you. I think you may have already answered this, but I wonder if you could just walk us through an example of when you've been in pain and how you've worked your way through it with the five aggregates, or maybe it doesn't happen that in such a literal way.
Mm. Okay, so I think most of my dukkha comes from mental things, not so much from physical things yet at this point. And I don't think it matters very much. I think the dukkha is dukkha, you know. But if the dukkha comes, say, from a memory of the past, and this memory comes, and it probably has come before, and it'll probably come again. Maybe some experience in life that has been very hard. And I think it's fair enough to just give you a very clear example. So my mother passed away in 2017. So it's been almost 9 years. And I still have a memory that comes back. I was taking care of her. I was staying with her to help her for the last, it turned out to be about 3 months of living with her to take care of her as she declined. And she would have seizures because she had hydrocephalus and she had internal bleeding. And I had no experience being with someone who's dying. And I was really actually quite isolated. Partly because that was her style. She wouldn't have wanted people around. So I was trying to do everything that I could to make her as comfortable as possible. And there were, I think, maybe 2 decisions that I made that I wish I had made differently.
Oh.
And of all the decisions you have to make in a situation like that, that's not a very big percentage, but those are the ones that come back to my mind. And it's painful because I wish I could have done better. And I can tell myself the things that other people said to me. The people who were living in her retirement community saw how I cared for her over the years, and they would say these very complimentary things, like, "You're such a good daughter," you know. But I know the 2 things I wish I had done differently. Right? So close to the end.
Right.
Not knowing how to do it any better than that. So when that arises, there's that painful feeling that comes. And then, intellectually, I can tell myself all the things I just said to you. I would give anybody else a pass on this. Anybody except myself. Right. But then to be able to step back, just to observe the arising of the thought, to observe the arising of the feeling, to look at it with the lens of the Dhamma, which the Kruba Ajahns, who I really trust to have traveled the whole expanse of the path, say that whatever we've done in the past is not a barrier to your awakening. No matter what it is. And that we've all done things. I mean, I've probably done worse things than this. Here I was really trying. Some things were just totally out of utter delusion, say, earlier on in my life. But the point being that we can observe this happening. We can even become familiar enough with the pattern of this arising and ceasing that we know it's kind of like, oh, there you are again. And we can actually start to develop some compassion around it. And the observing of it arising and passing away, you start to see, oh, this thought, this is preconditioned. And every time I buy into it, I'm conditioning it to come back a next time. I'm projecting it, or I'm helping it stay alive into the future. But if I want to try to get rid of it, I'm clinging to it. If I want to, if I identify with it, I'm clinging to it. But if I can step back and just see it as a passing process, as a sankhara arising and ceasing, then I can start to appreciate that that's how all of the thoughts come and go. That's how all the feelings come and go. And then we have a little less clinging to it. And we're not going to get there by logic or reasoning. It comes from observing and recalling the nature of the Dhamma. That the Dhamma is here and now. It's inviting us to witness, to see, to observe, to experience directly.
Thank you for sharing that very personal example. And I am inclined to try to reason or logic my way through something. And so by sharing that example, I think it makes it more clear to me that it's an experiential kind of thing. And it's more about just the observing.
Yeah.
Whatever arises and then whatever ceases. And it's just applying that need to observe, to witness. So
Yeah.
it's also encouraging to know that you who have practiced for so long continue to struggle with certain life experiences. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's encouraging to hear Ajahn Sumedho talk about this. I mean, talk about, being in robes for like 48 or 50 years or something, and to say, the personality, those khandas, they still have this same stuff coming up. But it's in observing it, it's in knowing it for what it is, that's the key. Because it's just process in motion, that's what karma is, it's just like it's got its energy that's not lived out its impact yet. And it's okay. It's really okay. I mean, we'd like to think that enlightenment takes away all of it. But enlightenment is really in the moment, as well as forever. And it's like to just have the confidence that being witness to it is where the true relief, the true cessation then really occurs. And that is Nibbana here and now.
Mm.
Thank you, Linda. Olivia?
Oh, I think Holly was first before me.
Oh, I'll just go in the order where the hand, maybe she was, but that's Zoom playing tricks on us, so I just go.
Mara. First, just thank you for this. Reading that sutta was really beautiful. Really appreciated it. I have like a practical question. I have a lot of conditioning around health from my family and like where I grew up. People are really obsessed with being healthy, and I feel there is a difference between like just maintaining your body versus like being a little bit extra. I am having a hard time distinguishing between them, even if it's not through like it's not like through like fear so much, like fear about, oh no, what happens to my body, but more like this impulse, like, okay, if something is not right. And I've also had a lot of years of pain and chronic conditions. So there's like a mental process where I'm very used to being like right now I have this little bit of nausea and it's like, well, is that because of what I ate? Is it because of some medicines I took? Do I have a virus? And there's like just this mental process that happens. And I'm noticing that I'm not always certain that that's needed. And I can't 100% tell when I should be putting the energy into it versus like this is just a conditioned response and I can just let it go. And I would like any advice on like distinguishing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because this is why it's really good for us to become aware and familiar with our conditioning. Like you just described, there's a lot of conditioning around this probably from early childhood. And to recognize that, and then because that really makes a huge difference in the way that we respond to things. Like it's very different. Like I grew up in an environment where most of the time if something happened, you just go like, well, whatever, this is the way it is. You get hurt, living on a farm, you constantly you're all banged up, it's normal kind of human experience. And if you got sick, the attitude was, well, we don't run to the doctor all the time. We just like see how it's going to go. And you wind up having like a fracture in your arm, but you don't take care of it for a few days because you're waiting for it to go away. And then, there can be blame for anything, whatever happens, it could be the wrong choice. So since you know that if the conditioning is to be super on alert and trying to like assess, and that maybe it's more than needed, I think that the best way or one helpful way to kind of say mitigate that or become more detached is probably through friendship and talking with someone who could have a different perspective on it and just like sorting through that a little bit. Like, does this seem like something I should be concerned about or not? I mean, I know that's been true for myself, instead of just saying, eh.
Yeah.
Like I was told I have really severe osteoporosis, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything about that. I want to understand it better first. And the doctors are like, what's wrong with you? Oh, no, let me take a year. And then the numbers are so much worse, as they coming out of the deep dive of like potato chip bones, But it's like, like this, it's through, I think, getting some kind of reflection from someone who has a different perspective that you can see is within the range of what's sensible. So that's one way. That I think that's the way to work with doubt. Doubt comes from thinking. And the way to work with doubt is to learn and get another perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
And trying to think in one's own bubble with one's own knowledge, it's too limited.
The internal spin usually is, yeah. And asking Dr. Google is probably not the way to go.
Agreed. Thank
Or
you.
AI.
No.
Yeah. I think you might have a friend with some medical background that might help.
I think I might.
I think you might.
Thank you, Ayya.
But it's really good to reflect in this way. Like, yeah, boy, my conditioning has been like this. And then it's helpful to observe other people who have a different approach. And the same with things that kind of get our goat, you know, like, oh, not everybody reacts like this to this situation. Why is that? And what happens if I don't react like this to this situation? Oh, okay. The sky really doesn't fall. Yeah. I think sometimes it's helpful to read about people who have a different approach too. And one of the places I find that is in the biographies of the Kruba Ajahns.
Yes, actually, I'll just chime in. It's one of the things that was on my mind when you were talking about maintenance of the body, and I was reflecting on that, is like there's this totally other extreme of like, tudong, like not eating, who knows where we'll sleep, do we get rice, is it poisoned? Like, like not that the food would be deliberately poisoned, like do we get sick? Like
I
this,
know a case where it was deliberately poisoned.
oh, I haven't heard of that one. Whoa.
Yeah, one of the monks was staying in an area where they were poaching, and the poachers came and made a meal, gave an offering into the monk's bowl, and he's like, "Oh, good, they're kind of coming around," and he ate it, and it was poison. It took a long time to recover. So, all kinds of weird stuff happens in this world.
Right. And in those,
Never going to really get it right, but there is a balance. There is a certain element of faith. Yeah.
yes, that people get enlightened kind of no matter what these material conditions.
If you want to use it, we can use anything for this purpose because it all comes in the same package of these 5 khandhas. And it all comes in the same package because you can just as easily use the 6 sense bases. We're working in this book. I think most things are kind of pulled out of the Samyutta on the aggregates, but you can also find the same patterns in the 6 sense bases. And we all have the same tools, you might say, in that way. We all have these conditions, the conditions that come with samsara. And we can use them, all of them, any of them, by taking that position of, I want to apply the Dhamma to this. I want to see this through the lens of the Dhamma. Or what we could say is the reality of the Dhamma instead of the lens of conditioned reality, conditioned experience. Samsara. Thank you, Olivia. Holly?
So, continuing on this thread of feelings, so I can see where a feeling arises, positive, negative, or neutral, and that there are causes and conditions. But if I dig down into that, they feel like my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a question is: seeing Vedana as non-self, does one experience the feelings as discrete, like and fresh, and kind of untethered from past and born of now? You said just process and motion, because it seems that a lot of those are attached to past things that have craving for outcome or in it. And it would be easier if I just let go of self and stop dragging the past along. But it's often a frame of reference. So I have that question about how are feelings experienced when one is farther along the path than I? Are they just born of now, or do you still have them, the coloring by my past coming into every feeling?
From my understanding, based on people like Ajahn Gunha, people like Ajahn Sumedho, the suttas that talk about how the Arahant experiences feeling. Painful, pleasant, neutral, emotions. I personally, in my practice, haven't gotten much purchase, you might say, on really looking at the fundamental Vedana of pleasant, painful, and neutral, I'm more likely to just turn towards the dukkha regardless of what aggregate it falls under. Really like First Noble Truth. This is painful. This is dukkha. I'm coming to understand it. Is it dukkha because of sensual craving? Is it dukkha because I want to become? I'm identifying with this. The bhavatanha. Is it wanting to get rid of the vibhavatana? What is the nature of this craving? And then to see it for what it is. So then, maybe it's the fundamental feeling tone, or maybe it's emotional, but I feel it in the body. So it doesn't matter so much what kind of heap we're throwing it into. Like, I like to think of the khandhas as like piles of sorted laundry. Some pieces of laundry, who cares? They're washed with the darks or washed with the whites or the colors. It doesn't matter so much. But then to be able to be present with that felt sense of the body. We've already let go of the story by then. You don't want to keep that story going. We're not talking about the conditioned process that got it there. What we want to look at is the attachment we have to whatever it is, that craving that's there. We want this to be different than it is. We want the world to be different than it is. We want our partners to be different than they are. We want our own selves to be different than we are. We want our experience to be different than it is. We want to feel different than we feel. Or we want to hang on to the feeling that we have. We want that sense of self. We see that sense of self rising. Even when we think, oh, I've got this. I've learned this. I understand this. I know this. If it's I coming to it, if it's me having an experience of meditation, good or bad, if this is the coming from this sense of I am, this is me, this is mine, we're going to suffer. We are suffering. And I was saying this morning, if I come to this program as becoming and being a teacher, it's dukkha. If I just come to share the Dhamma, let it flow through me, there's no dukkha. The mind can extract dukkha from anything. It can try to assess and go back. And was it good? Was it not good? Is it, did they like it? Did they not like it? Whatever. But it just can know all of that process as conditioned from a long time ago. And that we don't have to believe it or buy into it. But these images in the suttas of like the Arahant feels this discomfort and lets go of it as quickly as if you heated a pan in the sun all day and you dropped some drips of water on it and they just, and that's how fast it goes away when you're seeing it with Dhamma. If once there's that deep clarity of being fully free from defilement. And then, it's like recognizing that it's not like the body stops feeling things or even the mind, but there's no buy-in, no attachment, no identification. And so this is what these suttas we've been going through are showing us. That yes, we'll still feel pain when we're sick. Next week, we're going to talk about the Girimānanda Sutta, where we have this very clear step-by-step we're piece by piece approach to practice. And it's like, this is where liberation comes from. We're still going to have some painful and pleasant experiences until the body is finished. But if by then we understand it, we don't have to suffer. We won't. And as we develop in the practice, there's less and less suffering. And when the suffering is there, we know what it is. It's okay. We can let it go. And in the sutta that's in Bhante Anālayo's book, Khemaka becomes healed from the disease. And you don't see that in the sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's parallel. And in a way, it doesn't matter. That is not the point. The body's always carrying one disease or another. Okay, friends, thank you so much for your practice. It's an honor to be part of this community.